Welcome back to Quickies and Queeps. I'm Laurel Crawford, and today we're going to have a quickie on consent. So consent is something that I think I hope we're all aware of. It's kind of been a buzzword online, and it's awesome because so many people are talking about it. So many more people are being very vocal about sexual harassment and about what is okay and what's not okay, and kind of the gray area, because I think we all understand rape in terms of, what we all picture as being a violent experience. But unfortunately, sexual harassment and sexual assault doesn't just exist in that very black and white way that we understand it. And one way that we can really understand what is appropriate sexual conduct is if the person is giving, and if you are giving, sorry, I was just testing out some new eyeshadows at Mecca. I'm just gonna go take that off. It's gonna annoy me the whole video. Okay, I'm back. So when we talk about consent, we have to distinguish between not saying no and consent. And if we look at an example of inside the bedroom, if somebody is just quiet, they're just kind of laying still, these moments are times to stop. This person shouldn't have to outrightly and explicitly say no, because sometimes they can't. I personally have had an experience where I didn't say no because I couldn't. I mean, we look at the different stress responses, and there's, fight or flight, and then there's also freeze. And sometimes people can't say, hey, no, I'm not cool with this anymore, get off me. So somebody shouldn't have to say no for you to take it as a no, Anyway, so today we're going to be talking about enthusiastic consent, which is what you need to be giving in the bedroom and what you need to be receiving for things to continue to progress, or just continue. And we're going to be talking about how to make it sexy, because, sometimes I think when people are learning about this, they think that it has to be just like, oh yes, like, yes, you can touch me there. Yes, you can do this. And while it's awesome if you can have that play-by-play, it doesn't always have to be like, oh, okay, great, we're making out now. Can I put my hand under your shirt and touch your boobs? Like, it doesn't have to be that formal, So we're going to be talking about ways that you can work consent and explicit enthusiastic consent into your play with a partner or multiple partners. So we're going to first off talk about the conversation that should happen prior to anything happening with a new partner. And I believe this is so vital. And if you can't be having these conversations, you probably shouldn't be doing the things that you want to be talking about. So initially, obviously, sexual health status, you need to both be aware that you've had your checks and that you're all good. And like, for instance, if somebody has genital herpes, then, you both need to be clear that they're not having an outbreak or whatever, which is another interesting topic. I think we should talk about genital herpes and why we shouldn't be so afraid of them. In the 70s, they actually were not seen as a taboo thing. And they just were kind of seen as a part of sex. Sometimes it happens. It's like a cold, like a flu, I guess. I don't know much about that though, so I'm going to do some research and get back to you on it, make a video about it, because I think it's really important to destigmatize STIs and STDs, and distinguish between the two. Gosh, I'm so passionate about this. But yeah, so moving on from that, talking about sexual health is important. And then you need to distinguish your boundaries, what you're cool with, what you're not cool with. And this is where the fun part comes into play, because you can make it sexy. You can be like, what do you like in the bedroom? How can I please you? And then, as the person speaking, you can be like, well, I love my balls sucked, but I don't like them licked. Or I like them licked, but only after, like you've taken me the whole way in my shaft, you know? So like my penis is warmed up and then my balls are ready, that kind of thing. So it can be really fun to have that conversation, you know, and just talking about the things that you like in the bedroom can get you really hot and heavy and ready for it. Okay, moving on to when play is actually happening, we're going to talk about receiving consent and giving consent. So receiving first can be things like, how does that feel for you? You know, and it can be a really hot thing to be like, do you like this? What are you experiencing right now? You know, it can be questions like, do you want me to move up? How does it feel when I do this? You can be very descriptive with your language. You can be like, do you like it when I thing your thing? You know? And it can be a really fun thing just talking about it, you know, pillow talk, and inserting pillow talk more into your experience can actually make everything more arousing. And then when you're giving consent, there are so many ways. So it can be just as simple as like ums and ahs and yes, and it can be direction, you know? And I think it is so important to give direction because it is your responsibility to look after your orgasm and your pleasure. And so if you know your body, you can tell people what you like. Vulvas are complex and beautiful, and experiencing one and, you know, getting told what the person likes and, you know, move. Hi, Pudgy. You know, like just familiarizing yourself with the person's body is such a blessing. You know, get on your knees, worship that vulva, people. And if you are the one giving consent, you need to be like, move up, move down, like, you know, give me zigzags across my clitoral hood. You know, lift it up, get the clit itself if it's not too sensitive at that point. You know, like, or just massage me to warm up. You know, there are so many directions, and you can give them in a really sexy way. Consent doesn't have to be like, oh, can I touch you? Is that okay? Like, I understand and I totally respect when people feel that way, because it is just it is so beautiful to see people really caring about each other, and caring about each other's comfort, because when you're truly comfortable, you can really experience the most pleasure, and you can really satisfy each other. So those are my tips. I mean, they're pretty vague, but I think it's a really special thing to be able to share your experience with your partner, and it's so important, because otherwise you're just these two people having your separate experiences, kind of like grinding on each other, but you're both in your own heads. And I think that when you're sharing what you're feeling with each other, and there's that continual, yes, this is still okay, yes, this is still okay, you know, it's implied in those enthusiastic remarks that you make to each other. So I hope you can take that into your own experience and sexual practice, and just remember to be kind. Remember to be kind, and remember to be considerate, and remember to have fun, and just enjoy each other's bodies. All right, thank you. Come again.